اللهم اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم محمد. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم، نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم، أما بعد. قال الله سبحانه وتعالى في القرآن المجيد والفرقان الحميد بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم، بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. فاستقم كما أمرت ومن تاب معك ولا تطغوا إنه بما تعملون بصير. Respected brothers and elders, mothers and sisters in Islam, we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to keep us in the company of the righteous in this world. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala raise us amongst the righteous on the day of Qiyamah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala fill our lives with mercy and rahmah, as all of us are in the need of the rahmah and the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The ayat of the Quran that I recited in front of you is from Surah Hud, which is the 11th surah in the order of recitation. This is the 12th juz, the 12th sipara, and ayat number 112. As we spoke about this few nights ago, that Surah Hud is from amongst those surah of the Quran that were revealed in the later portion of the Meccan time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So when we talk about Surah Yunus, Surah Hud, and Surah Yusuf, they were revealed one after the other. And most of these surahs speak about the stories of the prophets or the nations of the past. About 90 ayats of Surah Hud speaks about the prophets of the past and what happened and actions they had taken and how either they were gifted or forgiven or how the wrath of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala came upon. And after mentioning many of the responsibilities of the previous prophets, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks to his Habib Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and of course all of us as general, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions فَاسْتَقِمْ كَمَا أُمِرْتَ. So be steadfast as you are commanded, O my Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. The word istiqamat in Arabic refers to steadfastness or establishing of something or keeping something in its place. That's why when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks about making salah, He does not only tell us to sallu salah or make salah. The ayats of the Quran mentions iqamatus salah, establishing of salah, upholding to salah, meaning in all conditions, in every condition, being able to make salah a major portion of our life. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions, فَاسْتَقِمْ كَمَا أُمِرْتَ. O my Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, become steadfast as you are commanded, meaning the commands of Allah that are been given to you, become steadfast. And along with those who turn in submission to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, meaning amongst the believers who are with you, who have turned towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and do not transgress. And this is for us as an ummah. The word tatghaw in Arabic means to cross the hudud or the limitation. The word tatghaw in Arabic also means when the flood waters expand and they go beyond the threshold, or when the water or something is held in its place and it's not allowed so that it can cause corruption and mischief to others. That very point itself is called tatghaw. Do not transgress, do not let go of things beyond control. Innahu bima ta'maluna basir. For indeed, surely Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is all seeing of what you do as believers, meaning as people who have iman. Now with regards to this very ayat of the Quran, there is a very beautiful incident that I want to share with you from the seerah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This very particular ayat of the Quran. فَاسْتَقِمْ كَمَا أُمِرْتَ. O my Nabi, become steadfast upon what has been given to you. Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiallahu anhu had a very close connection with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That's why the Nabi of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was speaking to Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiallahu anhu one day said, O Abu Bakr, I have fulfilled the haqq of everyone, but your haqq Allah will give you, O Abu Bakr. That's what Rasulullah said to Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu. That Abu Bakr, I have fulfilled the haqq of every person. But it is you, O Abu Bakr, that Allah will give you the haqq itself. And the Nabi of Allah was speaking to Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, said that I know a name of a person, when he will go in front of Jannah, all 8 doors will call his name. And he is none other than the son of Abu Quhafa, Abu Bakr as-Siddiq. So he had that great connection with him. And Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu also very, very dearly loved the Prophet ﷺ. He understood the feelings and emotions even before Rasulullah ﷺ saying something. So when the Nabi of Allah ﷺ was making hijrah, this is a side story, Rasulullah ﷺ came to the house of Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu. Al-Mu'mineen Aisha radiallahu anha said that I was young and I saw the Nabi of Allah ﷺ come to our house, and he came at a time that he usually would not come. So I knew that something of importance had happened. So she said the Prophet ﷺ and my dad both spoke in the middle of the day. It was the time when the Arabs used to rest because of extreme heat. And he left. He said then the next time Rasulullah ﷺ also came. And she said this was the first time I heard my father cry. But the crying of my father was not because he was sad, but he was overjoyed with happiness. And she says that was the first time in my life I found out that you can actually cry when you're so happy as well. And because my father was crying because Rasulullah ﷺ had told him that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had made him the companion of the journey of hijrat with Rasulullah ﷺ. And when the Nabi of Allah ﷺ was leaving, Abu Bakr said, Ya Rasulullah, I have 2 camels that I have been feeding for many months and preparing, one for you and one for me. And the Prophet ﷺ said, how did you even know, Abu Bakr, about this? He says, Ya Rasulullah ﷺ, when the first hijrat occurred and people began to move, I was just thinking that if Allah selected me as your partner, 1 camel would be yours and 1 would be mine. Meaning this was such a love that he had, that he understood Rasulullah ﷺ. Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani rahmatullah alayhi, in his kitab, in the tafsir of Sahih al-Bukhari, mentions a very famous hadith that you must have heard, that when three things were asked from many of the companions. Oh, Abu Bakr, what do you like? He mentioned 3. Oh, Umar, what do you like? 3. What do you like? Usman, 3. What do you like? Ali? Everyone mentioned 3. So I'm always amazed at the 3 things that Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu said. So when he was asked, oh Abu Bakr, what are the most beloved 3 things to you in this world? And subhanAllah, all the 3 things he mentioned came back to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And he said, number 1 thing in this world that I love the most is to see the Mubarak, blessed face of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That's the most beloved thing to me in this world. Number 2, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has accepted my daughter Aisha to become the beloved wife of the Nabi of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And number 3, that Allah has accepted my mal and my wealth to be spent upon Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. These are 3 things that are the most beloved. So everything and anything of Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu's life was with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And the Sahaba in general noticed everything. So in the later portion of the Meccan phase, it is mentioned that the Sahaba radiallahu anhum ajma'een began to see physical strain and difficulty coming on the Nabi of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And they said, oh Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we are seeing the signs of old age coming upon you. O Nabi of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, it feels that something is worrying you a lot. Like when you have a family friend or a good friend that you haven't seen for a long time, or someone that you've seen but they drastically change, or you see maybe wrinkles on their face, or you see hair turning gray, or anything like that as a sign, the first thing you say, yaar, kya pareshani hai yaar, theek hai na? Everything okay? You look worried. It seems like you're going through some problem, some difficulty. So it was Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiallahu anhu who noticed, because he was so close to Habib Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam that they felt and they understood even the emotions and feelings. So he said, Ya Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, I feel that something is not right. Something is worrying you, that I see a sign of fatigue and sense that you have become old. Something. The word shayba in Arabic means to become old. And the Nabi of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "O Abu Bakr, Surah Hud has made me old. Surah Hud. And in particular, Mufassirun have mentioned this very ayat of the Quran. This ayat of the Quran, فَاسْتَقِمْ كَمَا أُمِرْتَ. O my Habib, become steadfast upon what we have revealed upon you. After mentioning the story of all the prophets and all the responsibilities and all the tasks Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives them. And He is the most busiest individual on the face of this earth, but subhanallah, His entire life, He never let the Sahaba know. But again, as insan, as human beings, the closest of the people could see your feelings. And just to remind you of the akhlaq of the Prophet ﷺ, one Sahabi said, I heard about Rasulullah's akhlaq and manners. So I came in front of him and I said, Ya Rasulullah. And he looked at me and he says, how can I help you? Then he said, I came towards his side. And I said, Ya Rasulullah. So rather than turning his head, he turned his entire body and he faced me and he said, how can I help you? And he says, just to confirm, I went behind and I said, Ya Rasulullah. Rather than frowning or doing anything, he turned completely. إِذَا إِلْتَفَتَ إِلْتَفَتَ جَمِيعًا. When he spoke to someone, he gave them his full attention. And he looked at him. فَتَبَسَّمَ رَسُولُ اللَّهِ صَلَى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وسلم. From amongst the seerah of Rasulullah صلى الله عليه وسلم, there was one thing that every single Sahabi said, irrespective of the most difficult day of his life, there was a smile that was present on the face of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That his heart was bleeding with the pain and the suffering of this ummah, but his zahir was always in a sense that there was a smile on the face of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam from amongst the shama'il. But this ayat of the Quran of istiqamat and steadfastness told Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, took such a toll that, oh Allah, how can I fulfill the haqq of what you have sent me? So two things to remember and extract from this very ayat of the Quran, brothers and sisters. Number one, the importance of istiqamat, steadfastness. That it's important for us that we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for continuation, istiqamat and continuity in our deeds. Because istiqamat and steadfastness is one of the greatest gifts of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that could be given to any individual. Continuation and steadfastness in our deeds is one of the greatest gifts of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Small action, but it's done consistently. That is the key from the amal of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And number two is to learn to love the life of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, to love the seerah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, to be able to learn how he lived his life, how he smiled, how he cried, how he laughed. One quick story I remember from the seerah, and this is Jum'ah, just one thing to just quickly remember from his seerah, and forgive me for a little bit longer time, but it is mentioned in the book Shama'il at-Tirmidhi, a book on the characteristics and akhlaq of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, on a chapter called the Mazah, the humor of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So he lived a beautiful life. He cried, he smiled, the Nabi of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam even joked with his companions, and all of them were full of reflection. So in Shama'il at-Tirmidhi, Imam Tirmidhi rahmatullah alayhi mentions that there was a Sahabi, his name was Zahir. And he was a man amongst the people who were the poorest of the poorest amongst the Sahaba. And he lived in the outskirts of Medina. And he did not have many friends in the city itself. And he would come sometimes in Medina to the market and sell things, and he would leave. And he did not have many people to speak to. So one day, and this is the hadith in Shama'il at-Tirmidhi, amongst the mazah and the laughter of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So one day Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam saw Zahir, very quiet man, not many people to speak to. He's a poor individual, not well known amongst, but he's a Sahabi. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam walks from behind him so he doesn't notice. And the Nabi of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam comes and he grabs him from the back, like we do that as friends. And he came and he closed his eyes from the back like this, just to give him a less sense of comfort. And then he closed his eyes, just to say, you know what, guess who it is? And the Nabi of Allah stayed quiet. So he started thinking, who could this be? Who could this be? And he finally realized that this is the fragrance of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This is Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That's Nabi of Allah. So once he realized this is an authentic hadith in Shama'il at-Tirmidhi, he started pushing his back towards the chest of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam so that he can connect himself as much as he can for his love of Rasulullah. So he's pushed himself. So the Nabi of Allah realized that Zahir found out. So the Nabi of Allah ﷺ let go of his eyes, he put his hand on his shoulder, and just to give him a sense of comfort and make him a little relaxed and be more involved, he put his hand on the shoulder and he said, "Oh my brothers in the market of Medina, there's a new servant and slave. Who wants to buy one?" So he smiled and tears came out and he said, "Ya Rasulullah, I'm a poor man. Ya Rasulullah, no one even knows me here. If it was the men like Abu Bakr and Umar and Abdurrahman ibn Auf and they came from big families and high lineages, you would at least get something out of it. I'm a poor man. You barely would get anything after me, Ya Rasulullah." So the Nabi of Allah ﷺ looked at Zahir, he turned him around and he looked him in the eyes, Shamail at-Tirmidhi, the mazah and of course the crying of the Prophet. He looked him in his eyes and he says, "Oh Zahir, you may be a man that is not known to any person in this market, but every single angel in the heaven knows you by your name. There's not an angel that doesn't know you by your name, O Zahir." So my brothers and sisters, learn the seerah of Rasulullah ﷺ, how he dealt with people, how he cried, how he laughed, how he walked, how he dealt with his family. This ayat of the Quran reminds us from the life of Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu that he loved Rasulullah ﷺ. And this is one thing that we want to create, inshallah, as much as we can, the love, the muhabba of not only the history or the seerah, but also the manners, the akhlaq, and the shamail and the life of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. May Allah give us tawfiq to live our life according to the Quran and Sunnah. Subhanallah wa bihamdihi, subhanahu wa bihamdik. أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت